Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. After a little bit of a technical hiccup last week out, it's good to be back in the commentary box. And it's good to be back with SimSeniors because it's Season 6 time. It's time to get back on course, get back on track, and see what these drivers can really do. Now, we've had a bit of a shake-up in terms of our racing format. Primarily, the choice to move and readjust, we'll say, the grid for what we now have the Rookies Championship on the Monday and the full course Season 6 Championship on the Tuesday. So thank you for everyone who's joining us, and for those drivers who are in the Rookies Championship, hope you're having a good time. It's looking like you've seen some good results, some good racing. And if you want to get involved with that, of course, we have the Facebook group and you have the Discord after you join that. So get involved, get liking on our streams, get liking on all of our socials. You'll want to be there because you don't want to miss it. But let's talk about this season. Now, we had a little bit of a rough patch, a rough start. Unfortunately, the Kunos service were down at the time of the round 1 event, which would have been Silverstone. However, we have got confirmation, and you may have seen it if you already subscribed to the YouTube channel, hint hint, that we have got a rerun of round 1 happening next week. So we're not missing out on any races. That would have been usually an off week, but we are switching it up slightly. So now we have the Silverstone round that we missed coming up next week, and making sure we have everything we want. But where are we going to tonight? Well, we are headed to Imola, folks. We're headed to, of course, a beautiful Emilia-Romagna. We got a beautiful flyby lap, so courtesy of Craig and the team in the broadcasting, who have done an excellent job of sprucing things up nice and dandy for us. Of course, it is a 19-corner circuit. You've got, as we can see the flyby in the background here, you've got just coming up to Piratella. It's quite a unique and varied course. Of course, the main things to keep an eye out for are going to be Acqua Minerale, turn 11 through 13 complex. It is quite tough to get right. It's very easy to mess up and get your tail a little bit loose, especially when you come up and got the negative camber that you're going to have to fight and deal with. So that is going to be a little bit of a challenge for the drivers. Of course, as we go through, we have, say, Bassa, Tamburello, Villeneuve, Tosa, Piratella, Minerale, Variante Alta, and then Revazza to finish off the lap. It's going to be quite an exciting one, and for those of you who don't know, we are also including the Mustang GT3 in all of this. So we are using a bit of LFM BOP, to my knowledge. And what this means for us is we are, of course, having maybe a little bit of strategic play, strategic use of the Mustang, because where it is a brand new car to the game, a sort of shadow drop, it's a little bit of an interesting curveball that we'll see. But of course, we've got the spotters guides out on there, and you can see we've got some all-star drivers. So starting off with the pro class, we have some names that we are very familiar with. We have, for instance, the Moffats, we have the Cooks, the Engdahls, Larsons, Ostrachars, Elstroms, O'Neills, Maximilian Corgrese, just to name a few. And of course, we've got some beautiful liveries coming out tonight that we want to see out on course. We've got a couple of livery updates as well, so in due time those drivers will be coming through. Moving on to the silver class and more drivers that we know and love. Cumberbatch, Oldhouse, McNair, of course, league owner, big shot himself, and then some real striking. As they got the shark fin Aston of Cutler. We've got, for instance, Starkey going with a big switch up. I think that's switching to the Bentley there, so no longer being solely owned by Tennant, the Bentley is getting a little bit more action. Very exciting stuff. And then moving on to the bronze division, we have a few movements, a few different movements coming up and down the course. But as free practice is soon to come to an end, folks, we're about to get into qualifying. And the important thing here is that we are going to have some fresh faces, some fresh starts, and It's going to be absolutely beautiful to watch these drivers go. So, of course, a little bit of an upgrade to the format. And let us know what you think of that in the chat. Be sure to like the stream because we're trying to upgrade things, trying to make it even better for you here. And it's going to be pretty exciting stuff. I, for one, am looking forward to it. And we're going to see very soon, as free practice is now coming to an end, we are going to see who is going to be our first quali winner of Season 6. Let's jump up and let's see here. Pit lane is already coming alive. You can see the drivers fleeing out in droves. Of course, 15 minutes, that hasn't changed from Season 5. So 15-minute qualifying, and then we are out in full swing, ladies and gentlemen. You do not want to be missing it tonight. Let's go. Let's go out of the pits. Let's get out on that course. First out is going to be Dan Moffat. Mustang GT3 coming out immediately. He's going to be on a full pace to try and get it down in the field. Right away, some things are very apparent. Everyone wants to try and get out as soon as they can. It's looking nice and hot here in Italy. So 26 degrees ambient, 33 degrees track surface temp, and it looks like we're having a minor issue with the game audio. So we will be resolving that ASAP. Apologies for the minor issue there, folks. But there we go. We are back in it. Let's see what Moffat can do. Of course, key place where you're going to be losing a little bit of pace, it is going to be Acqua Minerale. Getting that line right as well as Variante Alta. Getting a good exit out of there is going to power you out into turn 16 and 17. So making sure they have a good line, making sure they have a good approach is going to be absolutely crucial. Here we are, first proper lap now going to be on the boards. We're going to be starting out here courtesy of Moffat here. Of course, remember, white number is Pro, aka Gold. Silver number is for Silver class, and then Bronze is going to be with the red car numbers, all denoted on the scoreboard and in the bottom right. That's where you'll want to be looking. But let's see what they can do. So jumping on board here with Moffat, and immediately looking pretty smooth through Tamburello. Coming up into Villeneuve here, so a little bit of a yield there, but doesn't jump too hard on the brakes. Try to conserve as much momentum as he can. Now, up into Tosa. Of course, the upwards camber of the hairpin. Getting a little bit of gripping up. Especially once you straighten out and head up into Piratella. Careful over the crest of the hill. Then stick to the rubbered in line on the circuit. Arc it out a little bit wider if you have to. Carry a little bit more speed, but just make sure you're all the way to the left as we come up to Acqua Minerale. Heavy on the brakes, careful of the sausage curb, and then power out as soon as you can straighten up. But not too early, because otherwise you will drop the rear. You're into Variante Alta now. Kind of throws the car through. Doesn't brake too much for the first part of the chicane, but making sure he's got some good control. The absolutely gnarly sound coming from this Mustang, and oh, having to dodge out the way. That's an abandon there from Moffat. Got into traffic, and it looks like he's not going to have a good time. Marsh is going to be the next one out. He was just behind, and it looks like he's going to be the one to set the first time officially on the boards. Marsh coming up to the line now. What's it going to be? Oh no, Engdahl was just up ahead, and Marsh in fact invalidated because he did not fully stay on the track. He had to avoid the traffic. So Engdahl is currently the time to beat with a 42.1. Jumping on board with someone else on the course, it's Sean O'Neill, number 333 car. The 720S usually was a bit of a stronger pick in the last season, but a little bit of BOP change has seen that adjust. Lindblom's coming straight in with a 40.792. They're going to immediately press the advantage with the Mustang. And we're seeing more time start to come in throughout the field. Primarily on the pro side of things. Or the gold side, I should be saying. But here we go. Sean O'Neill coming up to the line now. One of the other gold drivers in this course. Of course, needs to be jumping out and getting some good timings on this board. It's going to be P8 for him with 42.282. 10 minutes to go. Things are looking a little bit dicier for some rather than others. For instance, we've got North just coming through there, 44.0. A little bit of a pace difference there. We've got 42 cars out here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. 42. And what does that mean for us? Of course, it means better racing. It means more cars, more action. But it also means for our qualifiers here tonight, it's going to be more traffic to deal with, to try and navigate your way around. And it's very easy to have your lap compromised by something like that. So where are we going to be landing and ending up? Let's see. There's going to be a driver who's making some decent improvements here. It's Hellstrom. Number 660 coming up to the line, looking very good on the deltas. Let's see what we can navigate out of this one. It's going to be P5 with 41.7. But remember, an entire second faster in that Mustang is Lindblom. 40.792 to beat. And it doesn't look like anyone is making a meaningful challenge. No one's really rising to that caliber right now, which is scary to think about. Jumping aboard with Starkey. Of course, he is jumping into the Bentley for this season. Bit of a change up from the usual Aston, but coming across the line there, it's proved he can make it work with a P9. 8.5 minutes to go. Very good early statement. That's going to put him third in class. Very good from that Bentley. Goddard is going to be just coming across the line there in the 720, and he's going to be leading the bronze tier. P11 overall, 42.1. That is going to put him just over half, or just under half a second clear of his next rival in the group, and that's going to be Paul Hamby. Peter Wolfslener coming through. P8 currently. Number 196 car looking very much like they have good control. Got a handle on things for now. Let's see what they can do coming out of Aquamirale. Speeds they're looking for. Gonna jump on that brake and then power out. Delta. Last few corners of this circuit can be deceptively tricky to get right. You think that you have more braking distance than you actually do, so not uncommon to see cars dip a little bit more into the curves than they otherwise would have liked. But let's see here. Keeping it right to the inside line, minimizing the distance, is going to be Wolfsteiner up in P2 with a 40.965. Still about a tenth and a half down of our current quali leader with 7 minutes to go, but quite a statement to be making. Rosges coming out of the pits in the M4 GT3 and looking sharp. Wolfpack Racing, coordinated liveries. Surely that's got to be extra horsepower. Rosges having to get out of the way of course, any incoming cars who are on a lap. Unfortunate placement of the pit exit does mean we tend to see drivers go right to the outside edge and sometimes into the path of the pit lane. The one to be very aware of, especially if you are on a push. Mindful of the other cars that could be on track. All eyes on these quali runners here. We're on board with Marsh right now. Number 27 car. Of course, the iconic Porsche livery made its way to so many memes in the motorsport space not too long ago. He's going to be proving that he's got the teeth, as it's going to be P2 and a quarter of a tenth exactly behind current pole sitter. Now, is this going to be a potential lockout here for Lindblom? I don't think so. He's gonna have to push if he wants to solidify that lead, and you can see him in fact backing off and trying to get as good of a run as he can heading into this next lap. So he's taking it serious. This is quite the packed field we've got here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be very, very interesting, especially once we get into the race phase. Here we are, final 5 minutes. And looking around the field, a couple of cars who are finishing some of their laps here. It's going to be Hornberg, another Wolfpack runner. Another good looking run. Hornberg coming up. It looks like he is going to be pushing. Actually, I don't think that he's going to be on the confirmed lap at all. This and last and this lap, I believe were invalid. So we just had Pollock come across the line, improves to P34 and looking sharp with that livery there. Meanwhile, we jump up to the top of the field and we see some very close times to the deltas here. In fact, we got Lindblom just coming out and is currently identical in terms of delta. They're 0.0. Let's switch views and see what they are currently running. Yeah, exactly identical. Actually, no, he could be making a little bit of an improvement here going down into Ravazza. A little bit of a slower exit. I don't think we've seen a time quite as equal in matching to their pole run. But he's 0.00 all the way through. And in fact, I think we just saw a match millisecond for millisecond. Is that real? Did we just see the delta go perfectly equal? Because it was jumping up and down. It was slight tenth here, slight tenth there. And then it just stayed flat. 0.00 all the way to the line. Now that is points for consistency on Lindblom's part. That is absolutely points in his corner. If he can keep that consistency in the race, he's going to be laughing. That being said, he could be on track for even more. Let's see if he can keep this up. He's currently a 10th up on his previous 10th and a half. Could our current pole sitter go even faster here as we come to the final few minutes? Little bit of scraggliness from the rear of the car. But coming up to through Variante Alta now. Bit of a slide coming through. Does lose a little bit of time, but he's still up. He's still up on the positives. And in other news, say McNair just went P10 as well, so big improvements across the field. We're seeing some big delta jumps. But now coming through, Lindblom going and really packing in the power to the start-finish line. It's going to be the Mustang, and this is going to be quite the lap. Is a 4.90, even faster on this field. Amazing stuff from Lindblom there. He's putting down the power, putting down the hammer on this field, and they're probably sweating a little bit right now. They're looking at some of the time gaps here and they're thinking, right, we got to get a move on. Chop chop, lads, let's get to it. We'll see where time lends a hand to some of these runners here. Hornberg coming up to the line now. Are we going to see an improvement from the McLaren? And unfortunately, not quite. About 10th and a half down. Not looking the happiest of bunnies. Rodriguez just coming out of the first sector. And pushing hard. A little bit of slidiness as we see the tyres briefly lose their grip in the rear. And a little bit of a dust cloud coming out from the car ahead. And I believe that is... just trying to double check who that is, in fact. Not getting the most information at this point in time. Regardless, going to continue to push up. Remember, 40.9, and he wants to get at least a 40.8. That would put him on podium position. Now, we're seeing a few cars also jumping into the pits have decided and conceded that they're not going to be getting improvements on their runs. A little bit of a chopping wide of the BMW. They're still keeping it. Keeping the lap. Here we are. Marsh and Lindblom currently hold the lead by a substantial margin in terms of quali times. But here we go. Coming up, final 10 seconds here of quali. Jan Grosges get an improvement enough to leapfrog into P3. He does it. 0.820. Just a tenth shy, but he's got almost another chance here. Is he going to be going full push, or is he going to concede that run? No, he's going to keep going. So let's see what he can do. But in the meantime, Cutler into the pits in the silver tier. We've got Simon Ed going up to the line. Say another silver runner. Could be getting some big improvements here. We'll see what they can do. Doesn't quite look like it. But he has, yeah, there we go, 44.2. That is his campaign over for the time being. We've got Sean O'Neill as well. Going to be trying their best to give it a little bit of oomph and a bit of chutzpah as we come up to the start-finish line. And now here we are coming up to the line now. Sean O'Neill, unfortunately not an improvement, just under half a tenth shy. And then last couple of cars out on the field. Moffat, he's got currently P16, but he needs to get something on the board here. He needs to get something good. Unfortunately, his first lap was ruined, I think, by some on-track traffic. But he's still going to have a good run here. Coming up to the line, it's enough for P8, so not quite the clear that he would have wanted, but it's still a good performance nonetheless. Grosges is going to give it one more go. He could push up into P2 with this run here. Now let's see, is he going to have the pace? Is he going to be able to bring it to the line? He's looking like he's about a tenth up, which could put him into P2. But as we come up, final runners of quali here, and he's going to get it by half a tenth of a second, a 0.677. That is a very impressive run, and that's P2 for Grosges. Of course, Lindblom being the big standout winner of this one, and with a very strong pole position. Marsh is going to be your P3, and as we look to the rest of this field and we look into the silver, we have McKibben leading the silver tier with a very impressive time, a 41.485, followed closely by Justin Cutler, just 15 milliseconds away. Looking to the rest of the field, we have McNair finishing the top three for the silvers, and then you head into the bronzes with Andy Goddard taking the lead by about a tenth away from Phil Giles in the Ferrari, and Paul Hamby with the tried and trusted, and also straight out of Carmageddon, Lamborghini. Hey, what a good start. What a qualifying. I gotta say, folks, pretty good stuff all round. Pretty interesting to see what these drivers have been able to put down. And in terms of the quali session, we are going to take a short break in between now and the race, so do not go anywhere, folks. You'll want to be here for it, and we want to see what you think. Let us know in the chat who you have got your eyes on, and we will be back with you very, very soon. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You join us at a good time because we are about to go here in Imola. We just had an amazing quali and we're about to have an amazing race. You can see the cars here all lined up, ready to go around the 19 corner circuit. Now remember, the key rules: 60-minute race, outlap before going down to formation 60Ks. And then we have a mandatory stop. But the key thing to remember is that throughout all of this, drivers have to race fair, have to race like sportsmen, and there will be penalties. You've got stop and goes for speeding out the pit exit. We've got, of course, the apologies channel where drivers need to act like them good sports. So you tap someone, you do the right thing, apologise, be a bigger person there. But let's see what these drivers can do. And we are about to get going. You can see the cars bouncing as we get them ready to go. And just 15 seconds stand between us and the grid getting going. I'm personally excited to see, one, how the BOPs fare, because I know there is a bit of discussion in chat around BOP and about the balancing of especially the new car. Porsche also seems to be relatively strong, and the 720S, once considered a giant in the space, isn't quite seeing the same level of potency. A bit of a curiosity there, has to be said. Remember, 42 cars, now 45 cars in fact, because we had a couple of late joiners. But let's see, everyone get out there and get moving, ready for this race. Drivers are going to have to keep their wits about them. Have to really amp up that spatial awareness, make sure they know who they are up against and who is going to be on their left, on their right, and where the drivers are going to place their car is going to be so crucial, not only to keep themselves out of trouble, but to get themselves some good pace and good positions. The early stage of the race is such an important one. Your flash points, of course, are the start of the race, about 5 minutes in, and then the pit window, where drivers can select whether to take new tyres, but it will add to their mandatory pit stop time if they do so. See everyone coming out. Got Howells remaining in the pit lane, so not sure what's going on there. Also seeing a little bit of crosswinds. A little bit of wind coming out, although only a single kilometre an hour. It's not going to be too sensitive on the aerodynamics, hopefully. I'm pretty excited to see where this goes, folks. There's a lot to play for, and of course, after missing out Silverstone, this is the inaugural round, technically, of Season 6, despite being labelled Round 2. And for those who missed it, fortunately last week, we had to cancel Silverstone due to technical issues with the Kunos servers. And while we do have a contingency in place now for the future, we will be rerunning Silverstone next week instead of having a bye round. Now, just coming out of very anti-outer in the case of our leaders, are going to be slowing right down to get into formation. 60Ks, if not slower, in order to let the rest of the field catch up. Time is of the essence here for all of our racers to get into position, to get themselves in the group. And of course, once the leader passes the start-finish line and the green flag drops, it is go for everyone. 60 minutes. It's 33 degrees. The track is hot here in Imola, and we are about to go racing. Welcome back to SimSeniors. And after a bit of a season's break and a couple of off events, it's good to be back. Here we go. Start-finish line. Couple more cars coming across and round the corner. And there we go, green light. The track is hot here, and here away we go. Immediately, big jump coming out from the middle of the pack. We're going to see McNair getting in the way. The three-man fight is going to be dicing up. He's going to go around the outside, try and get a little bit of a push. You see a couple of cars going very narrow into the inside, trying to get a little bit of a run, get a bit more of apex speed. And you see a couple of cars also dropping off. Larson is going to be fighting for a bit of pace, as there's going to be McNair right alongside. Those two are going to be pushing hard for position. Slightly further ahead, we also have Lindblom, who in fact has dropped behind the BMW of Maximilian. We're seeing trades up and down the field right out of the gate. A little bit of chaos, and a little bit further down the grid, it looks like we had a bit of a issue. Quite an issue, in fact. So we're seeing a few cars really drop back down. We're seeing a bit of a pack split, but we will not see any absolute chaos and pandemonium. Looking back up to the top now, let's see what Lindblom does to respond. Of course, the BMW has an early grip on the lead of the race. We've got Marsh also following on behind, trying to see what he can do in this situation. Variantialta coming up now. And the Mustang able to just power out. So Marsh not quite getting the grip. And oh, something's happened. Something has happened. There has been an issue. It looks like Wolfslener has dropped down a heap of positions. The number 196 car in big trouble. Let's get a bit of a replay and see exactly what happened there. So you can see coming into Variantialta, and looks like he just lost the rear, and he comes out way too hot. And he's gone into the barriers. Safe rejoin, but lost a lot of pace in the altercation. Now we're seeing the grid start to space out a little bit. And oh, what's just happened down below? That is Cutler, Wilson, Hellstrom. They're all involved. We lose them through Tamburello. Cutler rejoining down in P29. But we're seeing some big casualties coming out of these first couple of laps here, folks. Some drivers really feeling a little bit worse for wear. Hellstrom, for instance, coming in at P34, and that McLaren looking a little bit bruised up too. Not ideal situation for him there. We also jump a bit further ahead and we see Elstrashov having a little bit of a gap between himself and the likes of Wolfslener. He's got a bit of work to do. There was about a 2.5 second delta between him and the other McLaren. Despite the damage that Wolfslener is likely facing, he's still keeping some good time. Credit where it's due, the racing prowess is definitely on point. Meanwhile, Colin, P2 for Silver right now. McKibben in P9, his only main rival, but that's not going to stop him really putting the pressure down on Cole Larson in that Ferrari right there. He's pushing hard. Let's see if can he make the gap. This is where he's having to be a little bit mindful of the airflow over his car. Too close, and he gets too affected by the dirty air. He does close the distance with some tactical braking. Good measuring of the braking distance there, but the exit on that Ferrari, being able to rotate the car, proved to be quite effective. Moffitt currently P7. Of course, not having the strongest qualifying, but is doing quite well. He's kept himself out of trouble, and while the leaders have made a bit of an extension to this next set, he's on the back of Larson, and he's really not letting him go. We see a bit of a drop down as we can see Goddard has lost a significant amount of pace. And in fact, we see a little bit of excitation coming from behind, as that is Jorge Saloma looking for any opportunity here. Ooh, a little bit of a rough Aqua Minerale there for Goddard. This could be the opportunity that Giles needs. He looks to the right. He has a position. He's going for it through Variantiata, even jumping across the sausage curbs. Goddard crosses over the circuit. Saloma has no choice but to go off the track, but retains the P19. Hamby eagerly watching all of this kicking off as Goddard and Saloma continue to fight. Goddard going back through. He's got it. Goddard's just about held the position for now. Meanwhile, Holmberg has just been dropped by Moffat as we head into the next lap. Moffat trying to close and get into the top 5. He knows he has the pace for it. He's going to be going for it alongside Larson, and a brilliant move into Villeneuve. He's going to confirm through Tosa. But what a shot there. And McKibben is also going to go for a move of his own. He throws it down the inside of Sean O'Neill. That's going to be Holmberg also on the side there. He could make this a double overtake here. He's going to go very narrow, headed up into Piratella. He's going to confirm it. Very nicely done there for McKibben, but it's not over yet for him because you can see the swarm of McLarens just itching to get past right now. And big slide for Holmberg. He's lost it to Requiem Minerale. No, he catches it. Very nicely done there to reserve. Oh, not so much reserve, but managing to catch the car and get it back on under control. They recovered to P11. Could have gone a lot worse for him. So McKibben now in P7. That leaves McNair in P9. And as way things are going, McNair is certainly showing that he's got the pace and he's really putting it down. McKibben, of course, about 2 seconds clear. We're seeing a brief challenge and altercation. We will say going for the 5th spot. Larson isn't all too happy with Moffat taking his top 5 honours. So he's going to be really pushing hard to try and get that back. You can see the push coming from him. So we see a little bit of an issue further back. And McNair, that's Jordan, the number 8 car. He's going to go very narrow. He's going to push and make the challenge here. Not quite going to material. Oh, big issue though. That's Serrano. That's Serrano losing the car and coming into contact with, I believe, that was... We go into the helicam there. Yeah, that was one of the McLarens, or I believe that's number 39. You can see sweeps to the inside, dives through, and just overcooks it. Unfortunately, does make contact, but nobody else spins as a result. So, damage control for sure. That does leave him 30, down in the 30s and 40s. Looking around, Chris Wilson pushing hard. Keep in mind, folks, we are just 10 minutes into a 60-minute race, and we've already had this much action. I'd say the changes to the championship were for the better. Wilson trying to get a little bit of tyre down. Put Oldhouse on the ropes. Wondering what can be done here from Wilson's perspective in order to get himself in prime spot. Putting down some really good pace from his end. And the Oldhouse is not a driver to be trifled with. You see a little bit of slicing and dicing further up as they're going to be challenging each other for positions slightly further ahead. Could keep himself out of trouble into Villeneuve, getting very close. Oh no, he's in the wall! He's lost the car. Coming out, and that is visceral damage. He comes out right on the racing line, running a little bit slow, and he's going to rejoin just ahead of Hellstorm. Unfortunate for Wilson there, as he was really looking to close in. And you can see the amount of time he's losing from that front impact cannot be understated. He's losing out big time here. Oh, looks like we have Patrick Larson going into the pits. And then up at the top end of things, we have Maximilian continuing to hold the lead from Lindblom here. And an impressive feat. I've got Barham down at the bottom of the field looking for push. Could get something done here. Meanwhile, we also got two McLarens dueling. That is Pollock and Mellon. Although, Mellon briefly making an excursion into the sand, the gravel. Not sure if that was by his own choice or not. Of course, have to wait and see with that one. But Aldhouse dropping down behind Hamby. There's been a little bit of fighting here in this mid-pack. And as things currently stand, things are looking good. Here's your full timing of the field. And you can see the handicaps as well, a little bit of the in-game at least. That's where we currently are. Remember, folks, the pit window is open at any time of the race, so drivers at any point can choose to take their mandatory stop. The only rule is that everyone has to take one. I believe it's a 20 to 30 second minimum wait time. Larson still on the back of Moffat and still not content with just letting him go. He is not going to be letting anything slide past. But here we go, Mellon and Pollock continuing to fight. They reunite, and at the same corner where one of them had an off-track excursion last time, this time it's nothing of the sort, and it's going to be Mellon out on top. As if he read the past to predict the future. Now we come through. We've already seen a few drivers take some stops, in fact, and you can see one of the cars coming out there now. So that was Patrick Larson, number 230 car. Well, currently at the bottom of the field, he has taken his stop out, so that is, of course, going to yield and benefit him. Oh, no. Mistake. Doesn't look like he's actually taken his stop according to the game, so maybe a bit of technical clarification needed there. But for instance, Cutler, yeah, completely a lap behind, but having taken his stop means that he is going to be in a good position to gain back on strategy. And if he has a chance to run faster post-stop, then great stuff. The only thing that drivers are going to have to be wary of and careful of here is that we are going to be seeing tyre degradation over the course of this race. And as the tyres degrade and of course the grip drops, this is why you tend to see pit stops around the midpoint of the race. You want to find the right balance of tyre deg and running stints in clean air. Now you of course can go earlier, but you also need to be mindful of that pace drop-off as the race progresses. Where we currently stand is with quite a few drivers running in their own spaces. So you can see the number 49 car. That is going to be Chris Wilson completely in his own room. And then a steady stream of cars all the way through. Of course, we have Maximilian in the M4, still leading off of the end of Lindblom. And he's putting up a very solid defense. Lindblom hasn't gone anywhere, and in fact has even set the fastest lap, a 40.717 from the Mustang. But that's not enough to disturb the pace and the consistency of the Wolfpack driver. So quarter of the way through now, folks, and things are looking fairly locked in at the front of the field. We have a quite substantial gap across drivers, but Johan Larsson continues to be a thorn in Moffat's side, and Moffat in fact went off track, so he has got a flag on that lap, and he is going to have to be careful lest he get himself involved in a little bit of messiness. And oh, very close coming in from Larsson, heading into Tamburello now. Track somewhat cooling down as we get into the afternoon, meaning the tyres will potentially be a little bit more pliant. You wonder what the strategy is going to be from these racers. Because currently, at this point in the run, things are looking like drivers could be trying to settle into positions. When you have a longer distance race, that's the big thing. You don't want to be slicing and dicing for positions every lap, because that's going to compromise your overall race time. It's like Wait is going to be under substantial pressure. Both him and Carson go off track slightly out of Piratella. Trying to get the absolute everything. Now, a good exit out of Aqua Minerale could set you up for an overtake into Variante Alta, and being able to put your opponent offline and sacrifice those crucial kilometers an hour, those few miles an hour, will make all of the difference. We've got some real stories starting to unfold out on this course, and I, for one, cannot wait. We jump to some familiar faces, and right now Osterschars has lost a position to Richard Cook, and it looks like it could be 2 for 2 as John Mitchell is going to go out the outside through Ravazza, and oh, Osterschars is round along with Mitchell. They both make contact, and in fact, if we get a bit of a replay and see what happened there, so we can already see Osterschars did go off outside, and through Variante Alta they didn't necessarily get the pace they wanted, so that's what sacrificed them the position. And then heading through into Ravazza, turn 17, you can see the nose was there on the Beamer, and unfortunately just coming to too much contact there. And it looks like simultaneously we've had a bit of an on-track incident, drivers having to be very cautious and evasive with their maneuvers. It's Peyton trying to get out of harm's way of the other cars. Peyton unfortunately losing a ton of positions. He's going to rejoin, although that is going to be all the way down in P40. So his race effort has certainly not panned out the way that he'd hoped. Osterschars has recovered, although not doing much better themselves. P31. And then it looks like we could be seeing an exchange of the lead coming up very soon. This could be Lindblom's moment. He's going to go for it. He's committed. He's gone through. And the two leaders make contact through Tamburello. Coming out through into turn 4. They both continue. Lindblom concedes, of course, understanding that wasn't the way to get an overtake done. But look at these two fight. Shows that Lindblom really wants that lead, but he's got to be careful. Too much fighting like this is going to result in him now dropping a massive lead. We've now gone down to a 1.8 second gap, and that's also going to be a key opportunity for Dave Marsh. Any fighting, any mistakes like we just saw from Lindblom there is going to reel him in closer and closer, and a P3 could become a P2 or even a P1 with some careful strategy and careful running. Well, Carson has just conceded to Trevor Waite. Little bit of a drop in terms of position. But regardless, a very good run thus far. Starkey currently sat P13. Doing very nicely to both adjust to the Bentley and put down some real good pace. It was a very striking colour choice as well. Bonus horsepower. And seeing the headlights come out a little bit. I was saying the Bentley, despite, say, looking heavy, manages to rotate fairly well from what I've been told. So it is still a bit more of a bruiser car and leans more into the power, not too dissimilar to how the 720S really excelled in some of its acceleration and top speed characteristics. But it finds a seemingly good balance here on the circuit. Elstrom currently holding P20, for instance. You can see trying to straighten up as quick as he can, get on the power. Not the same as the other cars, but you can see a lot of leveraging of the pace and speed. Well, we've got P35. Got Damien Reed looking for an opportunity. We're going to see, of course, whether that comes to fruition. And then just behind, we have, say, Goddard and Hamby. Two favoured rivals. These two have fought before. They fought in prior seasons in other events. Hamby is going to really lean into the Lamborghini's ability to rotate. And he's going to be pushing hard to get himself up into P21. The Bloodsport livery clearly doing some favours. There's going to be a bit of an intimidation factor. You even see the car of Andy Goddard squirm a little as he's made the overtake coming out of Villeneuve. Up to P21 now. Hamby really has spent a lot of time in that Lamborghini, and throughout that time, like with any car in this scenario, in these fields of cars, of course, BOP'd as they may be, you really learn the characteristics. You really learn how these cars operate, where they excel, and how to drive them. Because you can't just drop in any old GT3 and expect to drive it the best that you can. You need to learn the car's nuances and characteristics and the way that it behaves under certain conditions. The Lamborghini Super Trofeo is not going to handle a corner the same way a 720S Evo GT3 will. And you have to understand that in order to extract the most performance out of your car, as we have seen here. Some of such strong runners. Looks like Starkey now heading into the pits for his mandatory stop. Looks like now he's going to be coming out around in the P30s, if not high P40s, but the important thing is he will have got the strategy on him. Regardless of what class you are in, the main thing is you drive within your means, you don't overdo it, take the time to drive the car. The car should not be driving you. You should find a balance between it. There's Wolfslener looking a little bit worse for wear. You can see some damage on that front bumper, so maybe the aero somewhat compromised, but like we've seen before, and earlier in this race when he initially incurred the damage, despite the wound, remains strong and in fact is putting down better deltas than we've seen from this race so far from him. Was doing his team proud. Now with a good third of the field now having taken some of their stops, we see the grid start to fan out. Closest we've got is in fact Moffitt, who is within a second of Jimmy Engdahl. Of course, top six, all gold class drivers. Moffitt now chasing down that McLaren. Trying to prove that from, say, a really rough qualifying to eventually qualify P8 to now sitting in P5, coming on P4. This is a driver to watch for the season. Building a series of stories. Every driver has got their own story throughout all this. Whether that's a quality to remember and a quality to forget, or whether it's a race that sets the track on fire. This is where it's all made. We jump in with Cumberbatch. Nice blue and white Mustang livery there. A little bit of skittishness as they briefly went onto the grass. Was trying to get around Hughes. Now, the big problem here for Cumberbatch is he's got multiple cars. 9 other drivers. Or no, 8 other drivers. My mistake. Between himself and Carson in P15. Now, that is equating to over 10 seconds of on-track space. So, he's going to have to work hard in order to get not only that track time back, but to get around all of the other bronze and the 2 gold class drivers stood in between him and the next person in his field. Multi-class race can both be a blessing and in some cases a curse. Regardless, pressing on. Now coming up to the halfway point of this race, folks, this is where drivers will soon be, if not already done so, really starting to consider their stops. Now some late runners may be trying to gauge and get a bit of a balance on the tyre degradation. Maybe they're having to decide whether they want to swap tyres or whether they don't feel the pit time is worth it. We could see a few trades coming in. Colin getting real close to the back of O'Neill. His patience is a virtue, but plenty patient McNair has been. We could see him take P8 in the next couple of corners. It all depends on how he handles his pace and how much O'Neill responds to the pressure from the Iron Brew car. In fact, we don't even need to decide because O'Neill has decided to head into the pits for him. McNair is going to inherit P8, and you can see that the rest of the field is going to, in due course, take that same stance. Great running out there from a lot of drivers. We jump towards the 30s. And in P29, Ostrachaz has a recovery that he wants to be very committed to. Trying to keep a good pace to the back of Jordan McNair, but so far it just looks like until Howes and Jordan etc. all went into the pits, it looks like he was the one that was currently on the ropes more than anything else. Cumberbatch very close to the back of Hughes, and of course been itching to get by for quite some time now. You can see he's going to go for it. He's going to go narrow to the inside. Villeneuve in through the chicane. Careful of the other car around you. And then P18 coming through for Cumberbatch, and very nice run. Good defense from Hughes, but couldn't last forever. Now, Cumberbatch is able to get a little bit of breathing room and a bit of a run in order to track down and start to close the gap. Though, with the amount of drivers heading into the pits from the mid-pack, the next silver is in fact in P8. And it doesn't look like Hughes is going to let this take without a fight. Looks like we've had a yellow flag. Something has happened. Let's take a bit of a replay and see what's going on here. Although it looks like we might have a bit of a pit lane bug out from the yellow flag detector. In fact, I think that's exactly what it is. My apologies there, folks. No such issue. No damage to report. That one is a brief hiccup from the technical desk. And we'll be back on with the racing with Simon Carson. Simon Carson and Trevor Waite, both in silver, both pushing, and both taking their stops. So they're on as even a keel as they possibly can be. And a lot of the silver class has taken a very similar strategy. So now we see a swathe of cars all coming in at the same time. We had a massive wave of about 9 cars previous lap, and it looks to be the same here. Although Neve has got himself a 30-second stop and go penalty, and that can only mean one thing. Derek Neve was sped in the pit lane, was speeding in the pit lane, and has now pulled to a stop outside the steward's entrance, and is going back into the pits. He's out of it. He's gone. Neve has completely bowed out of the race. Not sure what's happened there, whether that was a retirement or whether that was a technical issue. Either way, can't be counting himself into the racing anymore. Now we're seeing a bit more balance coming in. Moffat now in the pits. Few more drivers heading out. Charles coming out of the pits himself. The drivers by this point have locked in their strategy, and they're just trying to make it to the end. We're over the halfway mark, folks, and as you can see, most, if not all, cars have either taken their stop or are planning to take their stop in the next couple of laps. So watch this space, of course, for how things are going to pan out. But Simon Carson on the back of Trevor Waite here could be getting a move. No, not going to commit to it. I think that was the wise move, especially considering Carson had a very rough exit, and he's going to be dropping the pace to Waite massively heading into next area. Moffat rejoins E16, and with some work to do. Of course, he is currently sat 3rd in class, but that's not going to account for everything. The big one that he's going to have to account for is the likes of Lindblom and Groskius, both on lap 19, and you see, in fact, a little bit of a tussle between Lindblom and another car. Ooh, a little bit of a funkiness there. I believe that's Wolf Slenner. Yeah, that is Wolf Slenner there. Yeah, 3.3 seconds between himself and the race leader. He is really laying claim to this track. Is relatively undisturbed, and in a way kind of putting to rest some of the BOP discussions, although with a single race that still remains to be seen, and I'm not sure if the balance has been adjusted in the week between Silverstone, where the racing was scheduled to be started, and here in Imola. Of course, would love those with, say, more ears to the ground than I can muster to deliver their insights in the chat. More than always welcome. Let's take a look and see where our drivers are at. We jump on board with Richard Cook. Ooh, Jordan McNair with a drive-through. Not ideal for him. He's going to have to serve that fairly soonish. That's going to be a big compromise. Looks like we have Pollock just coming out of the pits there. Wait, no. Pollock is gone. Pollock is gone. Repeat. Try and see what's happened to him there. But let's see what happened to the McLaren. They are just coming out through Tamburello. Then headed into Villeneuve. Oh, he's just bowed out the race. Potential technical issue. One can only speculate. One thing is for sure, he's not going to be enjoying the spoils of the race tonight. Well, big jumping around. Larson on the back of Engdahl. Move for P6 potentially on the cards. As now, time is of the essence for these drivers. 25 minutes on the clock may sound like a lot, but when you factor everything in and the moving strategy board around you, suddenly not so appealing. Carlos Larson's going to go for it. Rutosa around the outside, sniffs around, looks for an opportunity, had the nose, but not the pace. Not the move either. Moffat is carefully lying in wait just behind. He knows that some patience will be well rewarded in this scenario. Being too aggressive and getting involved in the fight would just leave him at a disadvantage. Whereas if he lets these two squabble it out, and then at the end, he takes the spoils, he could be onto a winner. But let's see what the strategic play is from all three cars. Is Moffat going to push Larson to challenge Engdahl, or is Moffat going to get impatient and decide, actually, you know what, I'm going to do it myself? You see him even back out a little bit, but no, he sticks the nose in, he's going to go for it, and that's contact! Him and Larson! They both come to blows, and Moffat is going to be, unfortunately, taking out the McLaren, putting them both significantly back in terms of the timesheets. Now, Moffat did back off a little bit, but that doesn't change the fact that Larson got spun, and Larson's going to be mad. Yeah. Rosges has now come out, and having done his stop, is remaining out in front. Not to mention, about a now 6-second gap between himself and the lead. So a slightly faster pit stop between himself and Lindblom. You can factor that in too. Larson is going to get round Moffat. Maybe part of a concession of sorts from what happened just a lap prior. But now, all bets are off. These two are going to be racing hard once again. Always remember, race hard, race fair. That's the modus operandi of this community and of this championship. Some good sportsmanship, and of course a healthy discussion about it after. Mark Hughes now headed into the pits. That just leaves, oh man, last driver, I do believe, to actually take a stop in this scenario, and he's going very deep into it. I can't help but wonder what kind of pace he's losing. Just with the tyre deg, he's going to be looking potentially at about a second a lap once things get really dicey. Rosges making very good time, but 6 seconds between him and Lindblom could have it settled. I'm also looking at Mark Hughes now jumping down into P12 and continuing to go. He's going to have some work cut out for him when he does leave the pits. But there you go, that is Colin McNair, last runner, now in for his mandatory stop. Let's look on board with Hellstrom as he's going to be looking around for a move on Simon Carson, coming out through into Tamburello, exiting out turn 4. Both of them got decent amount of pace. Let's see, is there going to be a push there? Hellstrom goes to the inside, dips back out. He's not going to commit through Villeneuve, but he could get a better exit slightly, very close to the back. Through Villeneuve into Tosa. Now he could get a bit of pace on the switchback. And oh, unfortunately, that is going to be a spin from Carson. Not as able to tell. Was that contact? Was that contact there? Let's see if we can get a bit of a view on the helicam or even on the front splitter cam. Let's see what has happened. So you can see going alongside. Goes through. And oh, that is contact between the two. That is between Carson and Hellstrom. Unfortunate there. That was a little bit overzealous, I can't lie to you folks. Looks like Carson, in fact, is... Carson is out. Yeah, I think we just lost Carson. So let's see. This is the number 212 car. And oh, that is going to be Pedro Serrano. So not what we were looking for necessarily, but I believe that is the number 897. Out of commission, and that brings us down to 38 cars from 45 starters. Rougher times for some. For others, it has been a wealth of opportunity. Serrano into the pit lane now, following the off-track excursion, and I think needing to do something anyway. Maybe they're suffering a little bit of damage, who knows? Let's look and see. Up and down the field, battles could be commencing very soon. And that is Serrano confirmed out of the race, leaving it 37 cars. Let's look around the field, and a big thing to note. Ryan McNair currently sat P9. McKibben in P6, but second in class. And despite a very late stop, is still on strong. Now with this late stop, he in fact could push a little bit harder, maybe see about making it closer to McKibben. He has a bit more strategic option here, and a bit more pace, if he's got those fresh tyres on. Now we look up further, and we see Moffat currently sat P5. And now is going to be an opportunity potentially for him to get a move on Larson once more. Engdahl currently sat P3. Lindblom closing into Grosges in P2. And then P1, of course, the BMW, who has remained undisturbed throughout a lot of this session. If Lindblom can put on some good pace in these next few laps, he could see to it that he catches up. Fortunately, not quite going to be pressuring in the same way that he maybe had in mind. Looking from the helicam, you can see that he's also under threat somewhat from another car, and that is McKibben in the number 45 Porsche. So a three-way fight is very much on the cards, and it could be happening sooner than we think. We only have 15 minutes to go, folks, so it's going to be tight. If we do see any fighting, any battling, this is where it's going to be. And I, for one, cannot wait. Well, let's look around. See what's out there. Is Damien Reed and the number 979 Ferrari be giving Treble Weight a little bit of trouble? The wild thing is we've had some big winners also be coming through. Butler, for instance, P16. Craig currently P13 and could be making it a P12. That is a mistake from Holmberg. That is a big mistake through Tosa, going very wide. And that is P12 for Craig. The old Starkey in the Bentley looking sharp. So Holmberg is going to try and close in, but Starkey has got himself some clean air to work with. And now we see where drivers' heads are at in terms of race strategy. Let's take, for instance, David Limbaugh. Now, I've got two thoughts. On one hand, he could see to really push. He's got the fastest lap by a couple of tenths. He's got some good pace, as we've seen from quali. And he's certainly shown that when push comes to shove, he can fight. He has got a couple of back markers in between himself and the race leader. But now he needs to decide, how hard is he going to go for it? Is he going to be able to close in, make an attack on Grosjean, or is he conceding that maybe he's not quite going to be able to get it working this time? So instead, you lock in the P2, you play strategically, you behave yourself. You don't get into trouble to lock in. We also see, looking sharp and looking speedy, it is going to be McKibben, Moffitt and Larson in a quite tight procession here. Larson briefly excusing off track. You can even see McKibben getting very close to the back of that Mustang and letting the rear grip, of course the slight rearward bias, play in somewhat favourably here. See Tony McKibben currently P6. He could be looking for a push into P5. Looks like the Mustang has got slightly better top end. And slightly better lines from Moffitt. I'm seeing him start to get away. Now keep in mind, these drivers are in separate classes. McKibben is putting up a reasonable fight and reasonable attack against two of our gold classes, and we see just ahead Moffitt's gone to the inside. He's gone for it on Larson. We see almost Groundhog Day style. Almost. We see one of them go round. The next time it's nearly Larson. Or nearly Moffitt, sorry. Larson refuses to yield, in fact. Quite the opposite. So let's see, is Moffitt going to continue the pressure? Or is he maybe going to dial it back? Of course, both drivers want that spot. They want a good opening round. A good opening round sets the precedent for potentially the rest of the season. You don't want to be trifling with that. So that's James Payton in the Lamborghini, which our mid-pack runners just passed. So running a bit slow deliberately to make sure he gets out of the way of those on a faster race. Danny going uncharacteristically aggressively, I'd say. Back when he was running the 720S, maybe it's the car, maybe it's a change of heart. But you can see very aggressive there, really trying to close the gap in that Mustang. Sometimes being a little bit overzealous with it. I wouldn't say McKibben is much of a concern anymore, because now you can see that he's opened up quite the gap, and I think by all intents and purposes, with some of the slip angle that McKibben is influencing. Oh, getting very close to the back there. Yeah, Moffat really just closing in, boxing himself out to a spot, and having no choice but to yield, and then that gives McKibben all the chance to come back into the fold. We're seeing a bit of a push and pull motion here. And there's not going to be much that McKibben can really do about it in the case of himself, other than stand and watch. Let's see where this unfolds. Because this could be big opportunities all round. Keeping an eye on your opponent, understanding your opponent's play is just as important as yours. Moffat, meanwhile, getting once again close to Larson. He's not going to commit in the same way that he did before, but Larson, with a little bit of a wide arc, does lose some time through Ravazza. And now just a couple of tenths. Moffat, if there's any chance that you're going to go for it and make it stick, it could be now. He's got the slipstream. He's got some good pace. These three cars are so tightly packed together. This is going to be Larson going to the inside, running defensive. Moffat not going to go full commit like he did last time, but oh, that's Larson. He's round, and he has collected McKibben. Contact between the two. McKibben lives to fight another day, but Larson is completely round and marooned on the circuit. No choice but to remain still and avoid becoming a moving target for other cars. He drops into P10, down into even further potentially. He's got to get out before Rios catches up, or he's in deep trouble. And McKibben nearly getting himself into some trouble there, but now you've got his own space. He's got his own space here. And he can take a comfortable class win. He just needs to bring it home. Only 8 minutes. But Moffat now in P4. Oh, I gotta say, sly move. Sly or Fox making his move. Of course, in a way, he kind of baited out Larson into his own mistake. He made sure that he knew he was going for the aggression. Larson naturally went into the inside to defend the apex. But by judging too much off of Moffat's braking point, McLaren just spooked itself and sent it into the scenery. Yep, and as well said by Arno in the chat, rule number 1 when defending is stick to your markers, because the other guy has to get around you. It's the passing car's responsibility to get around you safely. And that's the golden rule of defending. It's the passing car's responsibility. As long as you, being the lead car, don't have to, or don't drive erratically, all you have to do, stick to your guns, stick to your line, stick to your markers. Well, McNair is sitting very good in Class P2, and overall P8. With Rios further behind for Silva in P11, although could be pushing to make it into the top 10, with Jan Larson, of course, being on the ropes following what happened there against Moffat. Saloma leading the bronze as well. Looking very quick. And in his own space, he hasn't got much to worry about. And that puts him in good handling and good stead, because Paul Hamby, currently P2 for bronze, is just off the back of Richard Cook. And then behind him, about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds, it's Phil Giles. It was Marlboro. Classic looking Ferrari livery. So the two bronze runners could have a bit of a parting shot in these last few minutes. McNair currently sat at P8 and getting very close to Sean O'Neill once again. Well, remember, these are racing drivers, so at the same time, while we can say here they should be sticking with their class, they shouldn't be overzealous in getting opportunities to overtake drivers above or below their current grouping. They're still going to push and drive the best race that they can as racers. There's no point fighting with O'Neill. And it nearly did get a little bit dicey, I would say, and in agreement with some of us watching. Just needs to bring it home. Same with McKibben. Got his own space, and by a significant margin. 7 seconds split himself and Carl Larson. Doesn't need to fight, doesn't need to push up to catch up to Moffat, just needs to bring it home to take the silver win. It's otherwise looking very comfortable. With the evil eyes almost. See the accents around the headlights. That is Adam Rios. It's P3 in the respective class. About 6 seconds clear of Starkey. So in a very similar position to the likes of McNair. Doesn't have a viable threat, just needs to bring it all in. Even Howes, Mark Hughes could be on for a shot of a race here. As Howes is driving hard to try and keep up with the other Ferrari. These two certainly are going to be looking at each other's mirrors, looking where they are, but it doesn't look like Howes is going to be making much of the moves because he's dropped off in the pace quite significantly. And with only a few minutes to go, folks, this is where we have now potentially our final 2 laps. So this really is the curtain call for any last minute moves. If anyone's going to go for it, now would be a good time. So we briefly look and we can see Colin was looking for something there. Looking for a potential shot, potential opportunity. Although it's not really going to happen. Love it or hate it, might be for the best. Like we said earlier, nothing to be gained from this fight. Or is he still going to go for it? He is going to at least look around the outside. Charles is going to be slapped with a drive-through still. Or with a drive-through. They just stay in place. Now, we did mention it earlier, but there is someone who'd like to draw attention to as barely repped by the chat. Al started from the pit lane. And despite starting from the pit lane, has climbed almost half of the entire grid. Ooh, big snap from behind. I believe that was... Yeah, I believe that was Lienblom, yeah. Lost the rear of the car for a split second there, but here we are. Rodriguez has started the final lap of the race. We just heard it from race control. And while it has been an exciting race, by all counts, around the field, reality of it is, Rodriguez has been undisturbed. Put down an excellent run. And throughout the entire race, got the lead out early, committed to the lead as soon as they could,
put down some really good runs, some really good pace. And in the end, let's see, coming through Piratella now. A great result is set to be had. Well, it looks like McNair is going to be going for the attack. He's going to go for the fight against O'Neill. Don't overdo it. Don't push it too hard. No, McNair could have it. Or a little bit of a bump between them. And it looks like McNair could have it. Has the apex. Goes very narrow. Drops some speed. There go McNair. Dying moments of the race. Goes into P7 overall. Although no class gain. Certainly going to be some bragging rights for him there. And then coming around the final corner. It's going to be Maximilian Grosges, the Wolfpack Racing driver. He's going to be coming across that line to finish the race. Flashing the lights all the way in glee. Brilliant stuff from in there. And then you've got Liam Blom joining 6.2 seconds later. With Engdahl coming across the line to complete the top 3. Then the podium with both Pro, KKA Gold, and for the race as a whole. That's where he dropped things. I'll say Liam Blom doing a great job of controlling the race. And then Engdahl also putting down some solid runs. Going for a bit of a spin there to cap it off. McKibben in the Guinness livery is going to be your silver class winner. And then you have Colin McNair with some very aggressive, we'll say, very aggressive running in the dying stage of the race, getting himself a healthy P7, a P2 silver. Also now in the pits. And then Adam Rios looking very sharp in P3. Then you have Jorge Saloma coming across the line now to win in the bronze class with Paul Hamby looking very sharp, both figuratively and literally. And now with a P2 to his name for bronze. Followed by Andy Goddard. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your race done. What a race that was, honestly. Some really great racing and some really great drivers have been showing their hand and showing their capability throughout the entire session, start to finish. It's been brilliant to see. And as we close things out, you have been an amazing audience, folks. After much waiting, absolutely brilliant race had by it all. It's good to be back on the circuit. It's good to be back on the field. And where we head to next time out is, of course, like we said earlier, it is the Silverstone rerun. So you will not want to miss it next week. And of course, already subscribe to the channel. Make sure you get notified of the next race when it happens. When we come to it next time. Same time next week. But for now, folks, I've been Sapitron. You have been an amazing audience. But honestly, thinking about it, I think calling me Ben is better. Great work from all the drivers, and welcome to Season 6, folks. It's been an amazing debut round, and we'll see you next time for Silverstone. Goodbye.